Welcome to FRC Updates Now for December 21st, 2021. I'm your host, Tyler Olds. REV Robotics was founded in 2014 by two friends, Greg and David, and of course, an amazing passion for robotics that they have. Since then, they've become a colloquial name in FIRST and have been providing fantastic products for years to come. And of course, to over 190 countries globally. REV has been named one of the top 100 fastest growing privately held companies in North Texas the last 2 years running and have been crucial to the FIRST global program. And then even entered a battle bot, which I hear you might be able to see in episode 1 on January 6th. So we're delighted to bring in here Greg Needel from REV Robotics to talk more about new products coming out for 2022, REV's continued growth as a business, maybe a little bit of BattleBots, and of course to take your questions in chat. Greg, thanks for coming on. Great to see you again.
Hey, great to see you, Tyler. I'm always happy to be here.
Your destination for FIRST content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
FIRST Updates Now is supported by Kettering University. On average, Kettering students earn $45,000 to $70,000 over the course of their co-op program to help them graduate debt-free. 99% of students qualify for a merit scholarship, and you can apply for one of the 80-plus FIRST scholarships worth up to $25,000 each. Schedule your virtual visit to get started at kettering.edu. Get ready for esports for those in FIRST with the Fun Gaming League. FGL will have tournament events and be setting up Plan Play soon. FGL is open to all students, mentors, alumni, and volunteers in FIRST ages 13 and older. Join the fun Discord at discord.gg/FIRST Updates Now for tournament and event info. Greg, we're going to be lots to talk about today, but let's start talking about REV as a whole in general. Coming out of the pandemic right now, or we're still in the mix of it, but from a FIRST standpoint, things that we're going to be having events coming up for FRC, FTC events have been going on a lot. You guys have been growing, it looks like crazy. New area in Canada. Talk to me a little about what's the future of REV looking like right now. How are you feeling, bullish or bearish on what's to come, and what's happening in REV?
Yeah, so I'm always the optimist when it comes to growth. With REV this year, we've had a crazy growth ride since we started, and COVID and the pandemic and the cancellation of a lot of stuff over the last several years kind of took the wind out of our sails. But as things have started to increase, and we think we've started to kind of really get a wrangle on some of the supply chain and component availability and like all the stuff we've been fighting, we now really think now is the time to kind of continue the expansion plan that we were really working towards, in early 2020 and things that we did. So big expansion stuff. Like as Tyler said, we opened our Canada warehouse. So we have a Canada operation now. So all teams in Canada can order from revrobotics.ca. And that's domestic shipping in Canada. We have a subset of our product line there now, but we're going to be adding more and more to it as we grow, helping with that. We're hiring like crazy. There's a couple job positions that are open right now, mechanical engineering software. We actually have two really big strategic hires that we're going to be posting to recruit for. We're going to be recruiting for a new vice president of operations, which is actually a new role for REV to help really strategically guide, some of the core decisions on the day-to-day basis of REV. And then we're also going to be recruiting for a director of engineering role. We've always been really strong engineering, but there's we're just having another person in there who can kind of look at stuff and really help manage all of our groups, because we've got a ton of new products. So we need more people to kind of get involved. So there's lots of stuff like that we're kind of growing towards. But I think 2022 and beyond is going to be an amazing growth year. And we're looking for an awesome 22, 23 and beyond. So all good things, right?
Talk to me a little about the distribution and warehouse coming to Canada. Like when you're looking from expanding markets or serving that market better, maybe, right? Like what was your decision for that? And can you talk about just a little bit of the behind the scenes to bringing that there?
Sure. So I mean, REV's goal as a whole has always been about making STEM and robotics and FIRST more accessible to everybody. And so one of the more subtle parts of accessibility is how easy is it to ship stuff, how low cost is the logistics, things like that. So we tried growing, and we've done a lot of growth. We've got actually quite a few distributors around the world who carry our products. But what we really wanted to do is we want to give students anywhere in the world the same type of experience that they get in the USA, which is they can order something, it ships out that same day, they get it within the next couple days. They don't have to deal with customs and duties and imports and taxes and all that stuff. And so with Canada, we looked at the opportunity, and there's two different things. So FTC is growing like crazy in Canada, and it's going to continue to grow like crazy. And then also there's a really strong FRC foundation. And so what we kind of looked at was we felt like we could do a better job servicing our customers by having stock in country, not having previously, they would either be ordering from us on our website, and then the teams would be individually responsible for their own import, or there'd be some small stock available from a distributor in Canada, but it wasn't the same service. And so we decided if we were going to plant our flag outside of the United States, Canada would be a really great one. And then the other nice thing about Canada is that because it is geographically so close, if something goes wrong for whatever, I mean, new venture stuff goes wrong, we can still reach most teams and customers from our US warehouse within a day or so, right? So we can always put something terribly goes wrong at our warehouse up there, we can still directly ship, absorb the duties and stuff like that, and just make sure it happens right. So that's kind of structurally the market can support us opening an operation up there, and also it's a little bit lower risk than per se like opening our first office in Europe or Australia or somewhere else, right? It's just a little bit lower risk.
One last thing I want to ask you before we move on is looking from a growth standpoint for REV as well. Obviously, REV very engaged both in FRC and FTC, and of course, First Global you do a lot for too. Where do you see like the biggest market growth right now, or is REV looking somewhere else outside of First?
I think that's a tough question because the different segments. Right now, we service several different segments, right? And there's stuff that people know and stuff that people don't see.
Sure.
So we kind of, our current business, we is broken into, the biggest chunks are like FTC as a whole and FRC as a whole, like those are giant chunks. We also do a lot servicing education direct to the classroom. So there's a lot of adoption of REV products like the FTC platform into the classrooms themselves. And then we also have other markets like, makers and hobbyists, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say weird customers because we love all of our customers.
Different,
but
right?
different customers and demands who finds our stuff, because the amazing thing about the first ecosystem of products is that the stuff that it's done involve like lowering the barrier of entry to get to building stuff and putting it together and seamlessly working software, electronics, mechanical, like there's not a lot of that stuff in industrial products, right? So if you wanted to go find and buy a gearbox, you're going to pay 5x the cost, and they expect you to machine a custom plate and do all this stuff yourself. And so the ecosystem of products is really used pretty heavily external for, I guess I would say, a lot of different hobby industries, whether that's BattleBots or combat robotics, or even we have a customer who uses our stuff when they build 1/6 scale tanks that they go.
Cool.
So it's it's just kind of a thing. So in terms of like where we're focused, we always try to put the access part. If our mission is to provide access to this stuff, access is first. So we kind of look at like where can we go to give people better access to technology, give people new technology they don't have access to. And so we're kind of looking for opportunities kind of across the spectrum of both with inside the First universe and outside with connected things that we're good at, right? I mean, that's kind of a wishy-washy answer there a little bit, but I think the great part
I won't press you too hard on it. So
no, you can press me as hard as you want on this, but ultimately there's a lot of amazing opportunity right now, and this type of education and these types of materials are in demand. I mean, and we're watching it in front of our eyes, right? I mean, you think about, I say like 5 or 6 years ago when 3D printers started, when the hype of 3D printers was like, 3D printers are like super common right now.
Yes.
Right. And I think that people are trying to do different things, and we would love to be there to be part of whatever they're trying to do, whether that's a really cool STEM curriculum in the classroom, their FTC competition team, their first robotics team experience, like we're happy to kind of plug in and be part of that whole experience.
So before we move in, speaking about some new products that we'll be talking about and checking out what's going on, some of you might have just seen a little glimpse of, and we'll be diving a bit more into. Let's start our first giveaway that we have here, and we'll, as we talk about the products, we'll just let that go for a bit. So don't forget, you do need to be following the channel, so make sure you click that follow button on there. And our keyword for a $50 REV Robotics gift card is going to be MAXPlanetary, because we're going to be talking about that. I know the site just went up for that, but type in MAXPlanetary in chat right now, and that's your opportunity to win. And we do give ourselves a little bit extra luck. Thank you to everybody who has subbed so far. We appreciate it. And thanks for helping Fun stay loud, live, and independent. Don't forget, too, we will be taking some questions. We have a lot of pre-submitted questions that were asked on Chief Delphi in our Discord. But if you do have questions, type @FirstUpdates now with your question. We'll try to get as many as possible in that we can, but that really helps if you do the tag @FirstUpdates now for that. Greg, new products coming out for REV, a couple really big ones that I know we really want to dive into. And then you might have some extras in tow as well. And who knows what could happen on what else we might see. So, talking about it, I think we're going to start off with the control system. Is that right? But let's we can kind of just keep going and look at the different things that you want to show off.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the new control system parts, this is something that we announced that we are going to be producing these for the next several years. Obviously, trying to jockey the showing the camera the right thing. So this is the power distribution hub. I suspect that most of the viewers have seen this at this point, but it's replaces the existing power distribution module. It gives you 20 full current channels. You can do 40 amps on any individual channel. Plus you have 4 additional 15 amp channels, with one of them being switchable. So you can control that in software. You can, connect a light to that, turn it on and off right in code. So it's actually, it is not a relay, but it gives you that kind of relay functionality. We have, in order to do that, where it's 40 amps on all channels, we have our own self-resetting breakers. So these will kind of take the place of the snap action ones that we've been using for years. These are the same size as the 5, 10, 15 ATO size snap action. The only thing that's different is we now have a 40 amp one in that size. So you can use the snap action in here with everything except for the 40 amp. But 40 amps on all channels and kind of sleek packaging. Other cool things you might notice on this, if you're not familiar or haven't seen this before, you'll notice these connectors. So these are still made by Wago, but the difference is that they're levers. So you can simply just lift it up, plug the wire in the hole, and close it down. There's no need to get a screwdriver in there. So I've always felt that like servicing your robot at an event was very much a three-handed operation, where for one of these channels you would have to push the thing out of the way and push the thing out of the way, get the screwdriver in there, get the wire in there, and now you can do it. But now you can do this with a two-handed operation, and they're pretty nice and easy there.
I know we'll spend a little bit more time on this product as well too. I do want to ask a quick question from chat on this, asking, Chicken Skunk 100 asks, are the old fuses compatible with this?
Are the old pieces, like the old
fuses?
Yeah. So all of your snap action breakers that you have, 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30 are fully compatible. They're the same size. They can plug right in. I wish I would have brought some. The only ones that are not compatible with this device is the 40 amp. So the 40 amp one on the existing power distribution panel is a maxi size. And so that's just a wider fuse base. So no to those, but you can use all the other ones that you've got. And I will kind of just, from a plug perspective, we did make these custom. So these are all REV manufactured, and these are actually lower cost. So I think a lot of teams will eventually, maybe you use the ones you've got for this season, but as you replace them, I think there's at least $1 per breaker cost advantage for teams going with ours. Plus you can get them all from the same website and everything. So there's a efficiency gain there too.
One other thing I want to ask you in particular with this product is, can you talk a little about the development of it? Like, was this in development like pre-pandemic, or when did the conversations for that first start? And then anything you want to mention like in the development process for it?
Sure. So the first with the control system for FRC first puts out a request for proposal, and they do it about every 5 years or so. So we were asked to propose, and I think our proposal, like that was back in like maybe 2018. It feels like it's forever ago. 2018, 2019, and so we did this long process. Kind of what would we design? How would we do it? I believe in meaningful innovation, and like not just changing things for the sake of changing things, or like always more horsepower or more power, like whatever. It's like, how do we make the user experience better? A human-centered design in some regards. And so we did a failure analysis of basically what are the things that fail on robots. And so using the data of what stuff fails on robots and what are the common mistakes that rookie teams and things don't use and how are devices used now, that led to kind of this design. There were a lot of steps along the way. Like it is difficult to design something for this amount of power, and everybody on FRC wants the device as small as they possibly can get it, but it's like you're also dealing with a huge amount of current, and so there's trade-offs that we have to make in terms of making sure stuff is safe, making sure it's spec, making sure it's future-proof, right? Like I am not inferring anything, but like technology is rapidly changing, and so it's like if the main breaker were to change, or if the battery technology were to change years from now, like we want to make sure that we can support those types of changes. So it's a long development process. I will say, like I had higher dreams for this. We started a blog, and it feels like it's been like the REV bad news blog up to this point, where like all we've done is post about like shipping delays and why stuff's not in stock. But we've documented the process of developing these really closely. So test fixtures, early boards, samples, data, videos of things smoking, and like we have a lot of that stuff. And it is our intent to put some of that content out there as we can. At a bare minimum, a few years ago, I gave a presentation at World Championship called Where Robot Parts Come From. Mm-hmm. And I talked through the process of like how the original Spark was designed, made, and manufactured. And so at a bare minimum, I'd like to put something like that together for this device and the other control system devices. But we want to share more of that. So I guess I would say to anybody in the chat or who's watching this later on YouTube is that if there are specific questions that you are curious about, like send them to us. And then we'll use kind of some of that, question feedback to maybe write some articles and publish photos and videos of the development process.
Very cool. I do want to, I'll ask a couple pertinent questions that have come up in Twitch chat. And then, of course, if you have more questions about a specific component that REV has, you can ask them. We'll take that later on. But a couple of questions coming in. Wilson MW04 asking, would you recommend ferrules? I have problems pronouncing that. Ferrules with these.
Yeah, ferrules work great. Yeah, ferrules work great. All of these connectors on this device are rated to support bare wire, ferrules, tinned wire, so like wire that's been dunked in solder or solder on the end of it, or solid core wire. Obviously, we don't use solid core wire in FRC, but yes, I mean, if your team has used ferrules in the past, ferrules work great. We'll have a little bit of guide documentation because not all ferrule crimpers are created equal, and we want to make sure you have a great experience. But sure. Ferrules are fine; they're fully supported. I don't think they're necessary. One of the things about the connectors we chose on these devices, specifically the CAN connectors and the 15 amp connectors, are the wire length tolerance on these devices is not nearly as tight as the Weimüllers that have been previously used. And so a lot of the reasons that ferrules are such a good tool is that the ferrules are the right length for those connectors. And so you don't end up with like wires that are, frayed out or spaghetti on the outside of them. So you get a little bit of, you don't have as tight a tolerance on the length of the wire. So maybe that's not as big of an issue, but yeah, if you want to use ferrules and that's part of your team's process, that's great. But you don't have to have a good experience with it.
That's one more question before we move on. And if you did ask, make sure you, by the way, please take out first updates now. That would be a big help on our end. But we'll get to the other questions later on as well too. But next one I want to take is from Nightshade 3D3 saying, have they tested the trip times or trip points of the new breakers compared to the old snap action ones?
Yes, we have. So there's an automotive standard. I'm gonna miss it on this live on the stream. It's an SAE 885. But basically there's a standard that dictates what a ATO type 1 breaker has to adhere to. So all of our breakers pass that standard, and we find them to be really consistent. We'll be publishing trip time data and things like that, both the theoretical trip time data, like in terms of like, oh, if you go to 2x the rated spec for 60 seconds, what's the trip time? That's how the SAE spec is defined. But we'll try to publish some guidelines on this. But consistency is we really like these breakers. And we know, obviously, the snap action ones have been used for so many years. And so introducing a new breaker, we have to be we know the bar that we're being measured against. And so we want to make sure that we meet or exceed those expectations.
Well, great. We got a couple other products to talk about on the show. What do you want to bring up next?
Okay. I want to talk about MAXPlanetary. Because like I love the new control system stuff. But to some degree, like I've talked about the new control system stuff like a ton of times in the last 6 months. By the way, I'm gonna preempt it. Can I preempt a question on this?
Sure.
Because I know it's coming.
All right.
There were a bunch of pre-orders. Our original plan was shipping the pre-orders at the end of November. We're obviously past the end of November and haven't shipped these yet. We finally have shipping confirmation on all this stuff. We're so confident. These will be in our hands next week. And so with best of case scenarios, we'll be shipping them out to all the pre-orders next week. Worst case scenario, they go out the first week of the year, but it means that you will have them for kickoff, and then open orders for these will follow shortly thereafter. In terms of there's batch 1, batch 2, but we still feel pretty good about people's availability and their ability to get these things before the start of the season. So that's a good question on that one.
Sure.
Preemptive question.
All right.
Okay, so let's talk about MAXPlanetary. A couple of years ago, we launched UltraPlanetary for FTC mainly, but 550 scale motors. A lot of people use these with Neo 550. But so what we did is we got a lot of amazing feedback about this. People really loved the cartridge gearboxes where all the parts are held together. They're pre-greased. You don't have to get grease on your hands. Like there's a lot of like just user niceties about this that really make it a nice thing to use in a flexible, configurable gearbox. So what we did was we kind of looked at the state of FRC, and there's still a demand for the flexible, configurable gearboxes, but a lot of teams are making the choice now to just standardize on less motors. So you go back, Tyler, for you and we're similar aged in how long we've been doing
Yep,
this.
we're first boomers. Yep, I gotcha.
Yeah, so we're first boomers, and back then you'd use a couple sim motors, a couple 550s, some like whatever they gave you, drill motors, bag motors, globe motors, like whatever they gave you, you had to use it. But now, because of the way the COTS works, a lot of teams are just saying, hey, I want to be like all Neo, or I want to be all Falcon, or I want to be some Falcon and some Neo, or some Neo 550. Like, I think the majority of teams, and obviously Sims are still there, but I think the majority of teams are kind of standardizing on these like 4 or 5 motors because it's just the way things are going. So we wanted to make a gearbox that was designed to take anything that you could possibly throw at it in FRC, which I know is a very bold statement, but and really bring that. And so you have the versatility of cartridge-based stages where everything is totally baked together, but then you have this ability to take this drivetrain, and throw it on a drivetrain, throw it on an arm, throw it on an intake, throw it on a conveyor, and whatever gear ratio you want to throw at it, it's probably going to be fine. In actuality, you're more likely to break the hex shaft that it's attached to than you will the gearbox. That's as we're fighting where the things break. We break 70-75 hex shaft, and we go to steel hex shaft. We break the steel hex shaft, and then eventually you can break the gearbox. But it's well above what you're going to do on a regular FRC robot. So this, to me, is the new gold standard for planetary gearboxes in FRC.
So development-wise on this too, I'd like to maybe talk about that as well. So what was
Sure.
the development cycle of this look like? How far in advance were you looking at creating this? And then when you're looking at choosing, if we let me bring up the page on here, because the ratios that you are demonstrating on this, there are a whole bunch, right? The gear ratios that you have. So when you're looking from a development standpoint, what made you choose like all these different gear ratios that you have? Like, why create this many kits out of it?
Sure. So, okay. So backing up to the development stage. So obviously when we got such great feedback on Ultraplanetary, we knew we wanted to bring that to FRC. So we liked the idea of taking something that we proved at a smaller scale and bringing that forward. Obviously there's different challenges here because, this is a 35 watt motor and this is a 400 watt motor. So there's an order of magnitude problem here, but, we've been working on this gearbox for probably we started this sometime in early 2020. When everything kind of shut down, we basically said, all right, well, we're not selling things, we're not going to the events, we're just going to design tons of stuff. And it gave us this really interesting opportunity to play in spaces where we don't normally play, or like in times of the year where we might have been previously overwhelmed by just, event support or other stuff that we were doing, or prepping for, when we knew that there was the 2021 FRC season was going to be at home and most people were going to build robots. Like there's a lot of time in the year for first suppliers where we can't do development, or it's very difficult because of all the environmental factors. So we started designing a whole bunch of stuff, and we have so much cool stuff coming. Like I am so
When's it coming?
I am so weirdly giddy about some of this new stuff. I'm hesitant to make any promises on it. One of the reasons we didn't launch a lot of this stuff this year is because we didn't feel like we could execute on it. We've been fighting supply chain, shipping, costs, and everything nonstop for the last 2 years. And so we wanted to say, if we want to launch stuff and we want to launch stuff cool and do the coolest part of everything we can do with them, we want to do it all at once, and we want to do it right. So I didn't want to cram it in before the season and then put us in a bad situation, like, showing stuff that we can't ship or doing all that stuff. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming. It's not all specifically FRC or FTC or whatever, but as a company, we have a lot of really cool stuff in the pipeline that I would think, in the next 6 months, you'll probably see quite a bit of it show its head. And we're hoping that everybody loves it. But I can't really go much further than that, but I wish I could. But
you're the CEO, Greg. Come on. So.
I am the CEO, but I also, there's a lot of, I'd say there's 25 people at REV who work every single day to try to bring all this stuff in. And, folks like Erica who, work on our marketing or our engineering teams and, and all of our documentation, our customer support. If I tease something on a stream, like if I hold something up and I'm like, hey, here's a thing, it's coming soon, we will have emails tomorrow before we even get in saying, hey, Greg said this thing on the stream, when's this thing coming? And their MO is they just forward all those emails to me. So they're just like, you need to respond.
That's how I know the stream works. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so. It does. It definitely works. But so I want to make sure that when we execute on things, we do it properly. But MAXPlanetary, it was, this is the gearbox that I want for my team, and the other engineers in the building want for their teams. There's just little things that, and to be clear, and I think that I think the VersaPlanetary is a great gearbox. I think that the Andy Mark Sport Series of gearboxes is a great gearbox. Like I don't want to put other products down. I think this kind of lives in a new kind of realm where it's, can service a lot more gear ratios from a torque perspective and bigger motor perspective than what the VersaPlanetaries will handle. And then I think that, the sport gearboxes are super tough, great gearboxes, but they don't have that versatility of being able to swap ratios, change it to what you need. So I think we kind of live where each one of them kind of serves their purpose. And that, I think it's...
Well, I think the consumer will be the one that really, kind of says where that fits into everything, right? Like the consumers speak with their dollars and their feedback on things. And I think that's what we'll see. Let's grab a couple of questions, by the way, that's pertinent to this. We have Shaolin asking, will any mod stages be available at launch? For example, a ratchet or 90 degree?
Not at launch. I posted this on Chief Delphi maybe about a week ago. But yeah, we have all of the mod stages designed and in some form of process. They're just not going to be available at launch, but they will show up. All the things that you expect, and I'll even just kind of say the dual inputs, the 180 degrees, ratchet stages, those types of things. Like we know what the market uses in these gearboxes, and when developing this, we look at the MAXPlanetary as an ecosystem of products. So whenever you're designing a new ecosystem, we need to do R&D and go way, way further than we could possibly get to in year one. And so we have lots of accessories and stuff. And so we're not trying to cram, how do you do a ratchet stage in this form factor? Like it was designed from the very beginning. It's just, again, it comes down to execution where if we said, okay, we want to launch all these things all at once, we wouldn't be launching this gearbox this year because there's more testing and there's more development and stuff. So yes, those things definitely are coming. They will not be here for this FRC season though.
A couple of quick questions. I think these might be pretty quick answers. Dr. Brunson, Honeydew, are you planning any greater than 5-to-1 cartridges? I think there's a whole bunch, right?
So actually, we're not at the moment. So we are keeping this to 3, 4, and 5. And okay. one of the reasons that we're keeping it to 3, 4, and 5, I don't know if you can hit the kind of docu-cam here, or the close camera, is one of the unique features of this gearbox is that this hole through the middle is greater than 8 millimeters. So you don't have to cut your motor shaft to use this gearbox. And so in normal, like with the VersaPlanetary, you have a spacer adapter and then you have to cut your shaft to get a Neo into it, which is why like the Falcon short shaft exists. With this, you don't have to do that at all. So we can make more ratios, right? There's nothing in this geometry that prevents us from creating more ratios. The two problems we face is that those new ratios are going to be weaker because they're going to have smaller sun gears. But also you would lose the ability where you would have to cut your shaft to use them because you would want your highest reduction ratio to be your first stage. It is something that we've drawn up. I mean, we have designed them. We just we think that where we want to be with this is more we'd rather you go to 3 stages than try to push high ratios to do higher ratios in 2 stages. And that's kind of where we're going to enter the market with it. But like Tyler said, like, give us feedback, try it out. We are open to anything. Our expectation with all of these products is that they will exist. It's not just for this year. This will be here for a long time. And so there's plenty of time to do more ratios. So tell us why you want it and we'll see if it makes sense for us to make it.
Last question asked. I'm not sure if this is a loaded question or not, but I do want to ask it anyways. Chicken Skunk 100 says, are the gear ratios pictured on the label the actual gear ratio on the box?
Yes. So
I think it might be a loaded one. I think they have a disagreement on something, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, no. So I know what this is, Tyler.
Okay.
So with the UltraPlanetary, we made an engineering decision about making all of our gears inside co-prime. So that means we couldn't reach exactly 5-to-1, exactly 4-to-1, exactly 3-to-1. So these are kind of rounded ratios where like 5-to-1 is like 4.7. And we took feedback from that teams didn't like that, right? It's obviously a little hard to change that on this one, but yes, this for the MAXPlanetary, what is here, this is an exact 5-to-1 ratio, an exact 4-to-1, an exact 3-to-1. There is no rounding going on here. These are exact ratios.
Got it. That makes sense on there. Before we move on things, let's draw for our first giveaway. I know we're running a little bit short on time side, but let's draw for that first one. And of course, we'll have another giveaway in just a little bit too. MAXPlanetary was the keyword, and congratulations to AM Boy Scout for winning the giveaway. And of course, lots of rigged emotes in chat for that. But congratulations to AM Boy Scout. Make sure you reach out with your email and we'll get that out to you. And thanks to Rev for the giveaway. So I know we're going to have a few other products the tease or maybe that you have in front of you. So let's talk about that. And then we got a couple other things and we'll grab some Q&A afterwards, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I think other products to talk about, obviously the other pieces of the control system, pneumatics hub, radio power module. We do have this little fun one, which, so if you have a Spark Max, one of the biggest meme questions that we get is about mounting holes. And I don't want to make that in jest. Like, we know that teams want mounting holes. It's hard to change this. So we made this, and these are become available. These are just Spark Max hole mounts. So that puts, you get number 10 holes on a 1/2-inch grid across it. It snugs down nicely so you can bolt these to your belly pan so you don't have to use zip ties anymore. And then also, if you notice, I'm going to try to hold this up in a way that makes sense to see this. You can see holes and the 3 holes. So these will nest really close together to each other. So these are coming soon as well. But it's a nice little mount. And there may be some other little things that we launch, but that's kind of what I had for this. I wanted to put the focus on the thing that honestly I'm like super excited about, this MAXPlanetary.
Yeah, and we do have some more questions we'll take in a little bit. And of course, once again, if you have any for Greg, make sure you take @FirstUpdates now so we can get you those questions. Before we move on real quick, we will start another giveaway in just a moment as well too, but we do want to give a big thank you to our show sponsor, Kettering University. Kettering University allows you to go pro, where close to 30 to 50% of those who are going to Kettering University are actually in high school robotics. So if you want to go to a university where it's actually people that are in the same realm as you, you can go ahead and do that and check out Kettering. You start out with a co-op program on year 1. So if you want to start making money, if you want to graduate debt-free, check out kettering.edu. And of course, they have an amazing robotics center that you can check out too. And we'll actually be there. First Updates Now will be at Kettering for Robot in 3 days. So we're looking forward to that. So make sure you check that out. That will be on our stream, course during kickoff for the next couple of days as well. Also, if you didn't see earlier, we do have an esports gaming league launch called Fun Gaming League. Make sure you check that out on our Discord. We have a Valorant tournament coming up in just a couple of weeks. We just did a Rocket League and a Smash Bros tournament. So if you're interested in playing some games with fellow firsters, it's open to anybody that is a current student, mentor, alumni, or volunteer. We'd love to have you on. Join the couple hundred people who have already signed up at our Discord, discord.gg/first updates now. And by the way, lots of stuff, of course, for fun coming in 2022. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we'll have some other streams talking about that. So we're excited to have you back on Fun, and we appreciate, those who are coming back for the first time in like 2 years, right, Greg? So it's pretty awesome to see the community start to come back and band back together, which is really awesome. I'm excited for that.
Right.
So we'll start our second giveaway here, Greg, and then we're going to jump into a real quick segment called Explain That Image, where we pulled some images from your Instagram and maybe an old Chief Delphi photo we might have to talk about as well, too. So if you're interested in winning the second Rev $50 gift card giveaway, type Rev Rocks, all one word, just like I did in chat. You do need to be following channel, and of course our subs get some extra luck as well, because we always rig all of our things. Just kidding, everybody. That's not how it is. So, but yeah, Rev Rocks in chat. We'll draw for that in just a little bit. All right, Greg, we got a few photos here from Instagram, and then, like I said, an old Chief Delphi. We'll start out with an easy one.
I'm excited for this.
Yes. So this looks amazing. What cattle? What is it? Cattleback barbecue?
Cadillac barbecue.
Barbecue. All right. Where's that?
So Cadillac barbecue is about 15 minutes from Rev. It's consistently ranked one of the top 10 barbecue places in the state of Texas. I think it was in the top 5 They might have fallen a little bit, but it's amazing, just amazing barbecue. Like if you've never had Texas barbecue, it's like different shades of it's a whole different level. We love to go there whenever we can. It's amazing barbecue, and it's right down the road from us. So why wouldn't you go there?
I might have heard a rumor that a certain first dignitary has been treated there a couple times.
Not to that one.
Oh, not the Cadillac. Which one is that?
That is Hard 8 barbecue.
Oh, I went to that one. I was just in Dallas a few weeks ago. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So we haven't talked about BattleBots yet. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about Switchback and what's going on with that.
All right. So Switchback, I competed in BattleBots like a decade ago when it was off the air, into the forgetting about robot combat land. Big fans of BattleBots for a long time, and BattleBots always has this problem where they like to film their seasons in April, and so that's impossible, right? So, But for season 6, because of COVID and everything else that changed, filming was in September, in a year where competitions and everything were a little bit lighter. So we decided if we were going to do it or try to do it, now would be the year to do it. So we applied and we built Switchback. So there's REV Robotics is a sponsor of our BattleBots team. It's not, So we had a BattleBots team. We fought on BattleBots. You can see us on TV, Discovery Channel, on January 6th. And BattleBots is a very interesting competition for a lot of different reasons, but it's in a lot of ways it's like First in the way that you designing mechanisms, but also it's not like First because you have to deal with. This is one of our weapon discs, and when our robot is fully loaded, there are 12 of these on the robot, and each one of these weighs like 6.5 pounds and spins it up to 10,000 RPM. So it's a lot of power and kind of a little bit of ridiculous's.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's also just kind of fun sometimes. It's just something fun. After a couple years of doing stuff, we really just wanted to do something that was a little bit different. And so we had the opportunity to be on BattleBots, and we're excited to see we know the results already, obviously, because it's already happened, but we're excited to see how it looks on TV, and we're maybe do it again if the timing and everything else works out.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And that's January 6th, I think, is your first bout. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are in the first fight on BattleBots, or sorry, the first episode of BattleBots. I think we're like the third fight. We fight Gruff. That's not a secret. That's out there. Sam is.
I haven't looked at Gruff. I really hope it's like the Scruff McGruff dog on top of a BattleBot. That'd be amazing.
It's not, but the guy Sam who runs Gruff is actually a teacher in Florida who runs an FRC team. So it's all good family there. I did bring this out just for fun. This is one of our drivetrain motors for BattleBots. So when you compare like a sim motor to the BattleBots motor, it's kind of crazy the scale of power in these robots.
Let's move on to our next one here. Burnt out control board. The caption is that magic smoke smell in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's a motor controller we killed with BattleBots. So that's the inside of a VESC motor controller. It's a brushless motor controller that is for a lot higher power stuff. They use them for scooters, and in the process of building BattleBots, just like testing for First, we want to break things and we want to see what the limits are, because that's how you do well. And so we burned a lot of motor controllers and stuff, and so that magic smoke smell is the same regardless of the scale of electronics. That's the fun fact.
All right, let's go to this last one here. This is digging deep in the archive. Oh no, I brought up the wrong window. Hold on. I lost that one. I'll have to bring it up. I got it here. All right. We found an old photo of you on Chief Delphi. There's actually a lot of old photos of you, by the way, on Chief Delphi.
I am. Well, I mean, back then, back then, the who am I photo on Chief Delphi was like updating your Facebook profile, right? Like Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff wasn't a thing.
I was gonna say it's more like the MySpace if you really want to date us. So
yeah, it is, but it was like, oh, like every season. I mean, for a lot of us, first boomers, like updating your who am I every year used to be a thing. So there's a lot of old photos. I should mod delete those.
Yeah, I was say you can do that.
So this is just a photo, obviously like extremely low resolution and fun stylized of when I was I don't know, probably about 50 pounds lighter and yeah, I don't know. Younger and
so you do have in here. Do you know what year
yeah.
this was from, by the way? I think it's hold on. 2005. So you've been a first judge at least since 2005.
Yeah, I've been 2005. I was at RIT. I was doing the dumb thing of being a college student and mentoring two different teams. So in 2005, I was with Team 73, which was the team that I was kind of the lead on, and they no longer compete. But and then I also was mentoring Team 1511, Rolling Thunder.
Yeah.
And so so both of those teams kind of did different things. But yeah, I was basically spending every waking moment doing first stuff. So I assume that photo is taken during the year. I think in 2005, if my memory serves me, I don't know that I judged in 2005. So that shirt might have been from before. If I had to like rack my brain, it would be like some event in New York, either Long Island or I'm guessing it's Long Island Regional back in 2004.
Sure.
That's my best guess. But yeah, I don't know. That's the photo.
But I love it, man. So
I'm going to change that. I want to change that. I'm going to change my profile photo.
Please do. That's just thinking that can be our new subscriber thing when somebody subs that will pop up with your face there. So, okay. So we have quite a few questions. I'm going to try to condense the best I can as we wrap up the show. Also, I love the comment chat. Who remembers the Chief Delphi web hug? I know you remember that. Yeah, for sure. Right. Like for those who don't know, back when it was okay to do things like that, right? To actually be close contact. Chief Delphi used to have this awesome meetup where like we just did this giant hug, but you got to connect and network with a bunch of people at championships. That was good times back then. So, okay. So questions coming in. These are some pre-submitted, then we have some from live, and we'll get to as many as possible. And if you already covered it, Greg, I apologize if I didn't take it out.
But I'm going to go rapid fire.
Yep. All right. So Andrew Schreiber, given the high adoption of Onshape within FRC and FTC communities, does REV have any interest in maintaining a library of parts for team use?
Yes. So as of the new control system and also MAXPlanetary, we are directly going to be releasing our models in Onshape as well as step files. So like if you go to the MAXPlanetary page right now, there's a link to the MAXPlanetary on the bottom, and that's a fully configurable model where you can select the motor, the gear ratio, it'll auto-generate. And then we've had conversations with MKCAD. And so the idea is that we will maintain the library of our own parts, and then they can pull those links into MKCAD and do it. But yes, we know there are a lot of teams doing Onshape. We know there's a lot of teams still using SolidWorks. We're still a SolidWorks shop internally, but we're going to support what people want. So tell us what you want, and we'll happily give you the data.
Next one from Wooly Effendi. Robots have become increasingly sophisticated and better performing throughout the past decade with the induction of a lot of different stuff from suppliers. Are electronics the driving factor in the evolution on the technical side of FRC, or do mechanical COT solutions like swerve drive modules on full on subsystems raise the ceiling a bit more for you?
That's a really tricky question.
In there, yeah.
there's a lot in there. My short answer is, from the REV perspective, we don't tend to chase pushing the ceiling. We'd rather raise the floor. And so while COT swerve drives and all sorts of cool camera modules and all sorts of stuff like that exists, there's still lots of teams that show up with a kit drivetrain that barely moves. Sure. And so we choose to try to focus on enabling those teams to do more than necessarily trying to raise the bar of the technology for the other teams. Not to say that we don't do stuff up there, but it's from a focusing perspective, we think that there's more return on our time and our goal in terms of accessibility. We want rookie teams and teams that maybe don't have access to machine shops and sponsors, the same typical stuff that's been going on for 20 years. We want them to have a great experience so that they will come back. So they'll be motivated and continue to participate in FIRST. And so in terms of where technology is going and what's driving it, I think obviously FIRST games, I think technology in general being more ubiquitous out there, brushless becoming more common and acceptable, as sensors and camera system and stuff become better. I think you'll obviously see that stuff going into FIRST, but as great as it is that there are so many COTS swerve drives and these advanced mechanisms, those really cater to the mid grouping of teams that are reaching to kind of make that next step, and also the top tier teams who are trading money for time, where they could develop their own, but they're choosing to buy something so that they don't have to do that within a season, which is okay. But it doesn't really do anything to address the problem of, we want every single team to show up with a robot that can manipulate game objects, score points, drive an autonomous. And so I think there's new technology will drive some things, but there's a focus that we want to put on trying to enable teams that normally struggle to build better robots. And so I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but it's.
All right, we'll keep on. We'll keep going on in the next one here. Ian from 4467 and also Tal from 5431 asking, will the REV control system be compatible? A lot of acronyms here, by the way, with CRTE control system. For instance, could you use a REV PDP with the CTRE VRM? And then I'll ask a follow-up after that.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. Everything is inherently compatible. There are things that make more sense than other things, which is fine, but yes, everything is compatible. We are not, you can continue to use your CTRE products. They're great. They've lasted for so many years. Inherently, they will continue to function for you. And that's kind of the intent. So yes, you can add a pneumatics module onto a CTRE PDP. You can use a REV power distribution hub with a CTRE pneumatics control module. You should be able to intermix and match however you like, and that's all fine.
I think you answered half of Tal's question, so I'll just ask the other half. What are the points of the RS-485 ports on the PDH and PH?
Sure. So RS-485 is the inter-device communication standard that we use in the FIRST Tech Challenge control system, the control hub and the expansion hub. 485, and you'll forgive me the fact that I'm not electronics or a software guy, 485 is a similar but different protocol to CAN. And when we're developing new control system parts, we're looking at them as a control system ecosystem, which includes the control hub, the expansion hub, the driver hub, things that might not be used in FRC, but it is opening the gateway for additional options and interconfigurability. Like I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but and I'm not saying this, but if FTC ever wanted to do pneumatics, which I'm not saying that they're going to do pneumatics, FTC, yeah. Reddit and Discord, calm down, right? But they could add a pneumatics hub to the control hub and then get all the controls to run pneumatics on a different scale robot. So it's some of it is for us at the moment where we're looking at this from a giant picture, but it does open the door for different things in the future. But I think that for this year, you're probably not going to be using it much. And so tape over it as a connector and ignore that it's there until there's something fun for you to do with it.
A couple, we have a few more questions. I'm not going to take any more questions from Twitch live chat as we still have a few more that have been submitted. I want to make sure we get to those on here. So question coming in, I think this can kind of be combined. We got Newcomb K, and then also Andrew Schreiber kind of asked something similar, but what are the next steps what are the next steps that suppliers or the FRC community could take to make FRC more accessible? And then maybe on top of that, Andrew asking, what is something major you would maybe change about one of the competitions as well?
Okay, so in terms of what suppliers can do, I think that one of the things, and I'll point out something that I didn't actually talk about on either this or these. So standardization is good for the community, right? Standardization on things that make sense is good for the community. So for example, all the holes on the MAXPlanetary, these are all number 10, 1032 tapped holes on a 1/2-inch pitch, right? There's a 2-inch face mounting grid, 1/2-inch holes on a pitch, right? On all of our control system devices, they're number 10 clearance holes that are on a 1/2-inch pitch in every direction. On the Spark Max mounting bracket, so I think that one of the things that we can do to make things more accessible from just a design perspective is the more standardizing we can get across suppliers and vendors or product lines makes things easier because things just fit together. And when things just fit together or go together, then it's just easier to adopt because you're not trying to deal with those pesky little like conversion from one thing to another thing to another thing. You're just like, oh, I want this thing to bolt here and do this thing. It all just kind of goes together like Legos. So I think that some of that, there are pieces in the FRC and definitely more in the FTC world where that's true already, but I think we can strive for more. And then in terms of changing the programs, I think the one thing I wish for FRC from a technology perspective is I'd love to do more with computer vision. I think what we do with the retroreflective tape is great now, but computer vision, especially when you look at the stuff that FTC has with Euphoria and targets and TensorFlow with actually game object recognition, I think that introducing some of those different targets on the field, whether they're like AR targets for QR codes, depending on how you talk about them, or different things like that, can really do a lot. Because when you put a camera on a robot, if you have stuff built in to sense the field and the surrounding, you have to worry a lot less about odometry and all your encoders slipping, and where you are on the field gets a lot easier, and scoring and aligning to different things get easier. And I think that from a cost per team, you can do less individual sensors on your device if you've got a better camera world viewpoint of what's going on in the field. So I wish that technology was a little further ahead in FRC. It feels like FTC is really much further ahead than FRC on that one. So that's my
Yeah, very interesting. A couple of last ones as we go, as we start to wrap up here. One thing I want to ask, I know a couple of things were mentioned a little bit earlier, but maybe just to reiterate in here, asking about shipping updates on things. So the couple of the big things we've shown here today, right? The control system,
Yep.
And then the MAXPlanetary. What are estimated ship times for these looking like right now?
Yeah, so control system stuff, I feel pretty good. Like I said, I'm saying optimistically they're shipping next week. And then worst case scenario, I think they're the week after, but we're really, really trying to push those out. And then we want to make the individual devices available as soon as they are here. So sometime, probably the week leading up to kickoff or the week following kickoff, stuff will be openly available. MAXPlanetary, we're doing everything we can to get them to here and available by kickoff. So I expect that it will be they're available either the day before kickoff or maybe right after kickoff is kind of our goal. But generally speaking, we don't do pre-orders. So the control system was kind of a different thing because with electronics, there's a forecasting and there's some things we had to work through on making sure to make it. With the gearbox, where there are really good acceptable alternatives, we want to get it to you by kickoff, but it's going to be plus or minus a little bit on that. So yeah.
All right. Send my buddy asking the new power distribution hub allows for control of 20 motors. I'm not sure if you'll be able to comment on this, but will the 2020 rules allow 20 motors?
Yes. So first published a blog about a week ago.
Or say 20 different motors in particular is what he.
Sorry. So I guess I'll let me clarify. So there's a blog that first published a week or so ago talking about control system devices. It made all of our devices legal for the use in this. They also made an update in the last couple of days to make sure that people knew there's no limitations. So there won't be any limitations. Like you could put 40 amp in every single one of these channels if you wanted to. I'm not saying I recommend that, but I'm saying if you wanted to, there are no limitations on that.
Sure.
In terms of the total number of motors that you can use on your robot, in the past, that hasn't been limited, but I would wait for the rule manual to come out to make a better informed decision. I personally am not expecting anything, but I don't have insight. I don't get a pre-copy of the rules to review that stuff, and I couldn't tell you if I did get I could tell you that I got a copy, but I couldn't tell you what's in it. But So I think you're going to have to wait on that. But in terms of the ability to use all more 40 amp channels, that's already been told that that's totally legal.
Sure. McCrizzle asks, is the Spark Max hold down something that is a file downloadable for 3D printing at all?
It's not yet, but it will be. So as soon as we launch the page for these, we will make the 3D printing available. I will say it's kind of an awkward part to print because you would end up with support in either direction. So you'd either support for the bridge, or if you printed it this way, you'd end up with support for the screw mounts. So it's not really optimized for 3D printing. You're going to be scraping a lot of support out there, and our goal is to make these really, really cost effective. And so they're not going to be expensive at all. But yes, if you want to 3D print them, or maybe you want to take the design and iterate on it, so maybe it's a little bit more 3D printable, you are more than welcome to do that. No issues at all. They'll be available.
Yeah, a couple last questions that we have. And by the way, chat, we don't get to your question, I'm sure. Greg, what's the best way that somebody can reach out to REV to have their question answered?
Our biggest, we really like email, support@revrobotics.com. That is by far the best way because you can then document stuff. You can take pictures. You can send us link. I know it's a little bit harder sometimes than picking up the phone, but like that's the way that we can take that email, forward it to the right person in the building. You'll get support for technical questions from the engineers who worked on the devices, from the software guys who wrote the code. Like email is our preferred method, but we do have people who pick up the phone. We do have office hours, so you can email us, you can call us, you can post on our Facebook page, our Instagram, whatever, short of smoke signals, however you can reach us, you can get to us and we'll try to respond.
Yeah. The other thing too, if you want to follow up on this show in particular, I'd probably say posting the Chief Delphi thread might be a good way to maybe follow up on this in particular. If we don't get to your question that you asked on this show, like I said, we'll get to as many as we can. A couple last ones. Bryweg asking for the Canada site, asking in particular about the MAXPlanetary. Will this be offered in the Canadian warehouse? And then in other words, they're asking, should they buy one from the American warehouse right now, or should they wait for it to come till it's available in Canada? Because it's not available in either right now yet, is it?
Correct. So the answer is absolutely. It will be in the Canada warehouse. Also, the control system stuff will be in the Canada warehouse. Those pages, we'll get those pages up here shortly. I don't know if we'll get them done before we shut down, but they will be up. And for new products, I think it's probably you're looking at maybe a week delay for like brand new products from us getting them here and then transitioning them up to Canada. So if you want it like tomorrow, the best way to get it is from the US warehouse when they become available. I will try to get them up there as soon as I can from gap between US launch and Canada launch. It's not my intention to give customers in the US an advantage over Canada. It defeats the purpose if customers in Canada can't get what they want. So it's just when launching a new product, there's kind of a sequence we have to go through in terms of receiving, quality checks, internal production testing, reconsolidation, shipping some things and moving some stuff around internally. And that's not perfect yet because this is a new thing for us. But yes, they'll all be in Canada as well.
Last question we're going to take for tonight, coming from TFM 110. Will the 15 amp fuses for ports 20 through 23 on the PDH be included?
Yes. So there's an assortment of the fuses that come with the PDH. So they come with you, and they're also the standard automotive size that you can get anywhere, and they're very low cost. So, but they are coming with it. So yes.
Perfect. Well, before we head out here, we're going to draw for that last giveaway. So once again, Rev Rocks was the keyword to type in there. Before we do that, let's give a quick thank you to those who have stepped up during the stream, help keep fun, loud, light, independent. Big shout outs to Just Call Me Jeff, Ryan Huang, Potato, that's how they put their name, S&D and Mind and Body, Dr. Brunson Honeydew, Joseph, Nick Cousins, TFM 110, Newcomb K, Dr. Brunson, some bits as well, Turberly 3, and Skumari 00. Thank you so much for your support for this show. And Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us some great insight to what's to come for REV for, of course, the 2022 season and beyond. Of course, if they want to find out more, head on over to revrobotics.com. Any other areas they should be keeping an eye out on REV Robotics?
Just honestly, just the website in general. You can obviously, I know that Erica would be happy if you followed all of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Do it.
TikTok soon, I'm sure. Yeah.
Our YouTube. I'm getting a lot of pressure internally to start a TikTok channel. So
Perfect.
We've got fun ideas for things you might want to see on our TikTok. Send those to us on another social channel. We'll figure it out. We want to have fun. We want to be part of the community. And so, I think we have a 13 days of STEM challenge going on right now on our Instagram and Facebook. And just, we want to have fun. So tag us in stuff, challenge us to stuff. You never know what might happen on social media.
Absolutely. Congrats to Jedgar for winning the other giveaway. And thanks again to REV Robotics for the $250 gift card. So that's going to wrap it up for FRC Updates Now. And once again, thanks to REV Robotics. Teams, good luck through the season. This is going to be our last live show for 2021. We want to thank you for all of your support. We will have some gaming streams happening as we come up, but we can't wait to detail more what's to come in 2022. We look forward to seeing you at Robot in 3 days. And of course, look forward to seeing REV Robotics in the future, and can't wait to have you back on. Thanks a lot, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. We'll see you next time on First Updates Now. Talk to you then. Thanks to Kettering University for their support of this video. Kettering University is a national leader in experiential STEM and business education. Discover why so many First alumni come to Kettering University by scheduling a virtual visit at kettering.edu. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.